Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. Coming here, Ashton, your co-host, with my awesome co-host here, Zach. Sorry, he's on the other side this time, and we have a special guest, as some of you guys may know him on X or Twitter. It is Soup. How you doing, Soup? Welcome to the podcast.
Man, I'm great. Thank you guys for having me. I'm ready to talk some Rams football, man.
Yeah, a lot to break down from this 49ers game and some interesting things to break down coming up with this Bengals game. How you doing, Zach?
Hey, I'm doing really well. I mean, I think this is probably the first time, probably in many years, that Rams fans don't feel kind of like depleted after a loss. They still feel like that there's still momentum, that there's good things on the horizon, and I think that's just a positive thing for this Ram fan base.
Yeah. So we'll kind of hit the news first and then do a general recap and reaction to the 49ers game. The big news is Cam Akers. It appears his time with the LA Rams is coming to an end. Uh, Soup, what's your opinion on Cam Akers as a player on this team, and like how this team has handled it? Because it's kind of interesting. It kind of deteriorated in middle of last season, and then during coming into training camp and some camp, we heard that it was a renewed relationship, that they had repaired it. He got some carries in the first game. He looked a little rough, but he didn't look terrible in the first game, in my opinion. What happened, and why is he on the trade block now after two games and didn't even play last week? Wasn't even active.
Yeah, so Cam Akers is such a bizarre situation. It's and like I love the idea of Cam Akers, and I love the flashes of what we've seen from him. Right, that back end of his rookie season when he really started to find his flow. The playoff game against Arizona, right, where he went crazy. The big catch from OBJ in the Super Bowl season during that playoffs. Even the last 6 games of a very terrible 2022 season. That's the Cam Akers that I love. That's the Cam Akers that I fully believe he can be full time if given the opportunity. For some reason, just I guess his personality or the way that he feels like the offense should be moving is in direct conflict with what Sean McVay wants. And make no mistake about it, this is a Sean McVay Cam Akers issue. It's nobody else on that staff got beef with Cam. When you listen to feedback from the other players, and even when you hear Kyron's comments this week about Cam and how he really looks up to Cam, and they're like brothers, they're really close and they're really tight. Nobody, even last year when we still had Jalen on the team and Cam was going through his stuff, Jalen was still very speaking very positively about Cam. So I believe Cam is a good teammate. I believe Cam is a good person, but he's done something to draw the ire of Sean McVay. One of the things that I've hated about the Sean McVay era is we know nothing ever. Like it is strictly in house, which is fine, right? You want to keep some of this messiness in house. The problem is that we don't exactly know how to keep a lid on stuff, so the messiness spills out. I think the optics of how this situation played out, especially right before game time, we're getting reports that he's a healthy scratch. And he was just in the promotional material leading up to this match. Like he's in the promo video for the 49ers thing, like that the Rams launched on Twitter. I refuse to call it the other thing, but he's in it. And to get it, and what was it, maybe 15 minutes before kickoff is when they did it. I was like, this is bizarre. It's messy. I don't like the way that they played this out. I think if I wish they would have moved off of him. Not be like I said, once again, not because I don't like him, not because I don't think he's good. I think he's talented, and I think ultimately this is going to be one of those things that come back to haunt us, a la like Jonathan Myers, right? Like I really think Cam can turn into somebody. But I think if this is where it's at, it needs to be gone, and we need him out of the building because this is a distraction for a very young team that has to be very focused. And as we just saw with this game, like we have to be hitting on all cylinders and pretty much play perfectly. We don't have time to be dealing with another running back controversy.
Mhm.
And I think you're spot on right there. I think it's preventing Sean McVay from doing what he does best. And when he has to deal with this kind of, drama, whatever you want to call it, between him and Cam and the team, it's just kind of insane. And what I kind of see it as is Cam has not been the greatest pass catcher running back. He's not been a good pass pro.
Mhm.
He's been a good running back. He's been able to make the big flashy plays here and there and being able to get his yards when he needs to. But when I watched him last week, I just could not. He runs his one route, and if his route is blocked, he just continues to run and gets blocked. Like, I don't see him moving away and being able to be creative. Look at Christian McCaffrey in that muffed snap
Mhm.
that hit George Kittle's leg. He caught the ball and knew what to do with it. I don't think
Well,
Akers would have done
well,
that.
Zach, can I ask you a question? And I could be totally off base with this, but could it be that Cam kind of he sees ghosts? And I think if you go back and watch this footage all the way back from when he was at Florida State, right, he was running behind a terrible ass offensive line. Like he's always had to kind of like invent. And even last year, right, was running behind a terrible offensive line. And so I really think it sounds crazy. I don't think he knows what to do when he's running behind a decent line that's actually getting pushed because he's already anticipating in his mind how it's going to go bad. So I think he's running to where he thinks the solutions will be because he's anticipating the blocking to break down in a different area. And like I said, I just don't think he has a lot of experience with it. And there was, what was it, Todd Gurley's second season in the league where he went from being rookie of the year, right, to what the hell is happening. And
Sure.
for some reason, even Todd was like, I don't know what I'm seeing out there. Like he just wasn't seeing the hole. So I think, is there a case that could be made that maybe Cam just he just doesn't know what to do and his instinct tells him everything is going to fail. So don't trust your eyes.
Well, I think, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I just think McVay wants to run with the hot hand, and Cam Akers is just not usually the hot hand.
And
It's been Daryl Henderson, it's been Kyron Williams, it's been all these players before him,
mhm,
and when he was hot, he then gets injured,
mhm,
and so it pushes him back. And I think that's just how it is. He wants to be RB1. He thinks he deserves it. He thinks he put the mass on that was requested to be that RB1. He did what he was supposed to in OTAs. He did what he was supposed to in training camp.
mhm.
But when it came down to practice, Kyron Williams was the hot hand. He was making the bigger plays, getting the more yards. So why don't you use that? And I don't think Cam liked it.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Like I said, it sucks. It's a no win for us. I bought the man's jersey, so
What do you think, Ashton?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you both. I do think his play has gone through some issues, but like ultimately, Zach, I don't think that's the primary problem here. Um, his play would more impact the second contract. I don't think he's played bad enough to like get cut. So the question is like, what has caused their relation to kind of like go downhill, their personal relationship? And honestly, I think near the like early part of last year, around week 5 or 6, uh this team has always been a team where if you're not performing, if you're not doing the things you need to do, they don't care if you're drafted in the first, second round, or if you're an undrafted free agent. The guy behind you, if he's making the plays, is going to get that spot ahead of you, and that comes with being first string or second string. And he got benched almost last year. And I think basically what happened was Cam demanded snaps when he wasn't necessarily earning them. At least I believe this is what happened. Eventually, they fixed that relationship, and the Rams kind of gave in, especially with some injuries with some of our second and third stringers. He played relatively really good at the end of last season. And then I'm guessing during summer, like training camp and everything, he wasn't producing. And the Rams were like, "You're not getting the starting role." And he's starting to basically do the same thing he did last year, pout, basically. This is an assumption. I don't know. I don't have any insider information. That's just what I can glean, and I'm looking forward to finding out more in a year or two when this is less kind of inside knowledge, like Soup was saying.
Hey, Soup, your mic is muted.
Well, sorry, thanks, man. I was like, we'll see if it's ever gonna be public knowledge because how many years removed from Gurley are we, and we still don't know what happened. We still don't know what happened. I mean, there's been little things here and there where they've kind of, you can kind of read between the lines, but there's nothing definitive that ever came out and said, this is what happened. This is the downfall of Todd Gurley. Todd himself hasn't spoken on it.
Well, and are we ever going to hear the truth? I mean, you saw Cam's tweet before the game, just like he's as confused as everybody else. He's not confused.
He,
There's no way that he's confused of the reason why he was benched. He's not.
so,
Sean McVay didn't call him and be like, "Hey, we're just gonna. I know you're healthy, but we're just not gonna play you."
well, did you see McVay's presser today? They asked him about his comments on Twitter, and McVay's like, I don't understand where the confusion's at. So here's the thing, right? Somebody lying. And, once again, I love Sean McVay. He's given me some of the best years as a Rams fan of my life. But man, if there's something that Sean McVay is just like that goes with his whole legacy at the Rams, somebody lying. Always. Somebody always lying. And it's probably Sean.
It could be both. I mean,
it could be it could be both.
There's no way that Cam Akers is confused of why he's not playing that day. Like
I'm just saying, it's always between Sean and somebody. Okay, something is happening. I don't know why, and I get it. Right, you want to keep you try to keep this image of keeping everything buttoned down and like keeping it in house. I understand it, but man, if it's already out here, like speak on it and clear the air.
Yeah. I mean, Sean McVay has done that. I mean, we like Ashton said, like he can't. Obviously, people like him, or he still wouldn't be the head coach. There would be more rufflings going on inside there. Instead, it was Todd Gurley. After the big contract, they decided to get rid of him. Same thing with Jared Goff. Brandon Cooks. All these players that keep leaving, usually on decent terms.
They leave on decent terms. I just think. And I mean, if you guys have been paying attention for the last 6 years, and I'm not talking about you, Zach, you and Ashton specifically, I'm talking about any Rams fan. If anybody's been paying attention to Sean over the last few years, once you end up on his bad side, like that is now you live there. There's not a way back. Like you got to go.
Has there been a single player to make it off of his kind of bad list?
Not while they remained in LA.
Yeah, I mean, not that we know of. We don't know who all has been on his bad list. I mean, so
but we know the people that are on his good list because those are the people that keep getting chances in spite of performance. Van Jefferson, I'm looking at you.
He got some big praise. He got some big praise from Sean McVay.
That's fine. I need big plays. I need
big
plays.
Yeah. So
I mean, you can still be performing, and like Stafford has a history of let's say funneling to certain players, and you can tell quickly who he likes and who he doesn't like. And I feel like he's one of those people who doesn't forget when you have like really big drops, and like it takes some time to warm up to you.
I can't remember who said this on Twitter today, but I was in a conversation and they were talking about Van, right? And here's the thing. I like Van. Another guy got his jersey. I want him to do well. It's a contract year. I want him to earn his money. He's come up big for us in certain spots, but we just haven't, I think we can all agree, we haven't seen him really blossom into the player that we had hoped that he was going to be. And he has missed some crucial moments for us. But the thing that was said on Twitter is the problem with Van is the reason he doesn't fit the Rams system isn't because he isn't willing to do the things that the coaches ask him to. It's because he is not a physical receiver. He is very much a finesse receiver. You won't see him really come back to the ball. How many times have we seen it, even in the Super Bowl season, right, where Stafford's chucking the ball to him and he's fading back instead of coming up and fighting aggressively for the ball? I mean, part of the interception, on Sunday, when that Stafford threw to him was because he drifted back in his route instead of coming up. Which, by the way, Tutu Atwell several times in the game had a similar route, breaking inside. I know Vance was breaking out, but breaking inside, and instead of him taking the higher leverage angle on that route, he comes down inside to back towards the ball to help Stafford and secure that catch. Van is not that kind of guy, and he had, at least he hasn't demonstrated it. So that's another guy. Hey, I love him. I wish him well. I want to see somebody else. I want to see somebody else.
Yeah,
We'll
he's been a
we'll get
solid key player. And let's transition, like Zach was about to do, to the 49ers game. Yay! Guys, I did not want to be right about us losing this game, and we did play better than I thought. Just first off, Zach and Soup, give me your reaction to the Rams falling to 49ers 30-23. Just general reactions. Who do you think kind of helped the team stay competitive? It was a 7-point game until like 5 minutes at the end of the game. So the Rams were in it the entire game. It just a lot of things combined for this loss. What's your reaction to it?
Super. I'll let you go first.
Okay.
Yeah, Soup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you guys you follow me on Twitter, so you saw what I said after the game, and that still stands. There's no moral victories in sports. There's not. There's just like you win and you lose, and it sucks to lose, and I hate losing to this team. I don't care that we won the important one. I care because we got the hardware, but that to me as a fan, this is a heated rivalry. It's some of the most sickening fans on the planet. I get so tired and exhausted from them chirping, and they haven't done anything for almost 3 decades. But guess what? They get the right to talk to us the way that they do, not because they come and they have the most attendance in our stadium, but because they show up and they beat us. Doesn't matter what their team looks like, they beat us consistently. And that makes me sick. That aside, right? If you want to take something positive, I think if you're a person glass half full, right? This team is ahead of schedule. Stafford looks great. The offensive line for the second week in a row is working. Note boom, right? For all the slander that I was giving him on Twitter, I was giving him a lot of slander. I'm not going to shy away from that. He seems to have found a home at right guard. Now, injury is going to be a concern with him because he carries that significant injury history. He busted up his shoulder, and we saw the immediate impacts of him not being there. But when he's in the lineup, it's good. Stafford looks, I mean, God, he looks incredible. He looks incredible. He's absolutely dealing. Kyron Williams, is he going to be our primary back? Yes. Are we going to see? Is he going to be an explosive runner? No. He's a grinder, right? He's going to beat you up physically, bowling ball style. Think C.J. Anderson, right? When we had him in 2018, he reminds me a lot of C.J. Anderson with much better hands. His pass pro is very, very good. Tutu, I'm sure I won't speak for you guys, but I know I've slandered Tutu. Just because, and it's not his fault he gets drafted where he's drafted, right? But with that position comes certain expectations. I'm glad he's showing out now, though. I'm excited to see what could potentially happen when we get cut back in the rotation. I mean, Puka Nacua, man. Like, every analyst, everybody that's talking about the Rams has said everything that really needs to be said about Puka Nacua, but, like, I want to give this man some more flowers because he is playing phenomenal. And nothing looks too big for him. You can tell he's got the right mentality. Like they told him about the record post game, the rookie receiving record and stuff. He's like, I don't care, man. I win when the team wins. Like I love that because for a young player drafted in the first round, you're out here making not just Rams history, right? You're making NFL history. Your name is in the books now, kid. Right? At least for the rest of this year. Maybe another rookie comes in next year and breaks that. We'll see. But like you made history. That's a big moment for him when nobody really, I guess, saw this kid coming. And a lot of early comparisons, they had him at Robert Woods. I think he's Cup 2.0. He's Cup 2.0. And I think he maybe even plays the game a little bit more physically than Cup. I think above the shoulders, obviously Cup has him. But the fact that he keeps coming back, and we heard about it in camp, right? That he was permanently attached to Cup's hip. He keeps coming back. He keeps asking him. You see the videos from camp. You see the videos from the scrimmages and stuff like that, where he's going back to the sidelines, asking him, "How do I get these leverage on it?" And I think he's really taking those notes. And you've seen that he's not really getting a grip of separation, but the way that he's able to physically manipulate his body on these defenders and impose his will and get the ball, and he's got great hands. He's got great hands. You know, we got the occasional rookie drops, but man, he's giving us everything that he wants. Defensively, Byron Young is going to be a problem. Byron Young is going to be a problem. We saw him get loose. I thought Brock Purdy's life was over for about 5 seconds when I saw him come off the edge on the weak side and almost collide with Aaron Donald. They almost met in the middle. And if Aaron didn't pull back, Brock Purdy was going to get annihilated. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was going to be a heck of a flag, but like he was going to get absolutely destroyed on that play. Michael Hoyt, it's a fun experiment. Get me a edge rusher. Give me an edge rusher, man. We need some help. I think the conductor, he's going to end up turning into something, but you can see Aaron needs help on the inside, man. Aaron needs help, and more than just an edge rusher. We talked about it at the top. We need corner help, man. We need help in our secondary. Akello's doing well. I even think like Kobe Durant is doing okay. I think he's got to find his footing again in the star position because it is really kind of new to him. So I think it'll still take him a couple more games to really get back into form. But we've seen what he can flash. To me, I'm a little done on DK right now, man. I got burnt on him last season. Early impressions of him this year are not putting a good taste in my mouth. I want to see Trey. Yes, I get it. He's undersized, but he got all the accolades in college playing against these same guys, right? So can we see him? Ernest Jones, I mean, what an incredible, I mean, he was good before, but what a season with Bobby Wagner will do. If we could get him somebody that would complement him, oh, yeah, man, that I don't know. Like I said, the defense is good. It's young and cheap. I think it's modeled just like Kansas City, right? Where the money is very, very clearly on the offensive side of the ball. That's where the focus is going to be. Defense, young, cheap, and fast. That's what we're doing. Like I said, I feel good. This is the first time in a long time that I've played the 49ers and we've lost, and my week has not been just absolute despair. And I came out of it feeling okay. It still sucks because I hate that team. But yeah, sure, man, you feel good about this one as much as you can when you lose.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, there is no moral victories, but at the same time, you're going up against supposedly the second best team in the league right now. Mm-hmm. If you believe all the power rankings and things like that, and we came up 7 points short. And in reality, if there was a few of the mistakes that the Rams made themselves, they took those back. It was going to be a closer game, and maybe it would have been a more of a field goal one way or the other, because they did capitalize on the 2 interceptions that we had with 2 field goals. So I think our Rams defense played extremely well against this offense, especially with Christian McCaffrey. He had 119 yards, which sounds like a lot, but really it was that one explosive play of the 51 yards that really brought him to that caliber. The Rams really contained him pretty well the majority of the game outside of that one play. So really the defense, I think, is doing an admirable job for what they have. Just like you said, DK, I'm getting disappointed in him. I think they're targeting him more, which we can clearly see that.
I would too.
He's causing all the penalties, and he's got to refine that. And I think that's the only thing that I would kind of push back is why Trey may also be the problem. It's because he's young, and I think he's going to be a little bit more aggressive, just like DK is. Mm-hmm. And I think he's going to be getting those flags just as well. So I don't really know if I want to see what Trey has in him, but I don't know if we're going to get a different outcome until Trey is more set in. But if you don't give him time to play, how's he going to get more set in? So
and no disagreements from me there, Zach. None.
So Ashton, what about you on the defense? How are you feeling about them?
So for defense, I thought, like you guys said, I really like the comparison to Kansas City, where they're not necessarily great at takeaways or like 3 and outs, but they reduce points, and they are able to slow down the opposing offense. And for most part, outside of some really bad situations that the offense put them in, uh, they did pretty good. Uh, I think the whole Darian Kendrick conversation, I think people are judging him against Jalen Ramsey, and that's such a unrealistic comparison to expect Darian Kendrick to be Jalen Ramsey in his second year. I think he plays the trail technique pretty good. He's had flashes of being great, but he's starting to learn this number one cornerbacks being outside, and that's going to come with growing pains when it's such a young player. And I understand why people are getting frustrated. I'm a little confused why Raheem wasn't rotating safety help his direction as much as I think they should have been. Now, I understand it's the 49ers, and when you play the 49ers, you got to load the box, and you got to wait until later in the game for you to have two safety sets. Hopefully, when you're leading, and that's what we were kind of able to do in the championship game. But in this game, it's tough with these rookie and like second year cornerbacks. They got burnt sometimes, and we were pretty lucky. Purdy was terrible at throwing the deep ball. Now every play has a lot of story to it, and I'm sure if Trey plays better, he's gonna get the start over Darion. I don't think he has in practice, and there's a reason why we see Darion out there. Um, so it is what it is. I still like our secondary. I think if they gel and they learn and stick to their techniques better, I really think we could have a promising thing in the second half. Now, you have to also take in context, like you guys were saying, our pass rush is atrocious. Let's be frank. I like Young. I think he kind of reminds me of a reverse of Leonard Floyd, where what I mean by that is Leonard Floyd really great at sealing the edge, really great at stopping the run, and a good pass rusher. I think Young reminds me of him in the sense that he's really great at applying pressure and getting to the quarterback whenever he has a one-on-one matchup. But he's good at stopping the run and kind of setting the edge, but not great at it yet. So I love the promise we see with him. Yeah, I agree with you, Soup. Hoyt, I like his story. I appreciate them taking a chance with him. I'm definitely for giving players like that snaps and like see what you got. It's better than the rotation of pass rushers we had last year that weren't doing anything at all. Like give someone else a shot, see if you have anything. And I don't think he's a bad kind of like role player. In
Mhm.
rotation, I think Hoyt could be really good, but as a primary second rusher,
Yeah.
edge rusher, not it. Definitely, I think if the Rams, which I think we all probably agree, they look like a playoff team right now. We may be wrong with that assessment, but I think we all agree with that. And if they are, they're going to be in the market for trades. I definitely think Snead, if he feels like this team can win this season, he's going to get aggressive.
I hope that we do something, but not too aggressive. I am really looking forward to having a first round draft pick this year for the first time in what feels like a decade. Um, but yeah, for the right player, I would be willing to sacrifice next year. I don't need to be shipping off 2, 3 years worth of first round draft picks, but next year I would be willing to sacrifice. And I look around the league and I think, where might we have some opportunities to, I don't know, discuss possibly landing this one of these edge rushers? Obviously, the golden goose is Brian Burns, right? Like that's the, when you look at it, that's the thing that makes the most sense. He's young. Yes, he's going to demand a massive contract, but eventually Aaron Donald's going to be off the books. He would essentially take over that space on a contract. Um, we know what we're getting in terms of him coming off the edge, and that's a good person for somebody like Byron Young to really learn and model his game off of. So getting the two of those guys together, that would be great. Carolina needs a receiver. They need a receiver that can run the routes the way that Van can. Now Van's got to start catching with his hands so that way he can be more marketable. But Van Jefferson could do well. I'm not saying he moves the needle like a DJ Moore in Carolina, but Van would be very attractive to them. They don't have a real dominant RB1. I think that's another thing, especially with Coach. Oh gosh, I just lost him.
Frank Reich.
No. OC, our old OC, Thomas Brown, right? Yeah, Thomas Brown. I think remember when he took over the running game at the end of last season. That's when we got Cam's best games. So obviously there's a connection there. There's a history there. Thomas Brown's also very familiar with Van's game. I do think that there could be a scenario, and I haven't heard anything. This is just me dreaming. Okay, I think that there's a scenario that makes sense if we package Cam, Van, probably a second and another like a fourth to Carolina to get me a Brian Burns. Now, I don't think that moves the needle for Brian for Carolina, but I like him. I also look at Commanders, what y'all doing with Chase Young? Like, what's happening over there? I want to know what's going on with him. And then can we pick up just one of the edge rushers from Baltimore? I feel like they got 6 of them. Like Ajabo, Odafe Owe, somebody.
And they're also looking for a running back too. They're the ones reaching out to the Rams about Cam Akers. So it may be something, but after these last couple of days, half the NFL is looking for running backs. So we're in a better spot than we were last season when this whole Cam Akers thing was.
They can shut down anything to the Browns though. They can shut all that stuff down. I didn't even realize it until I was watching like Sports Talk today. I forgot that Kareem Hunt is still a free agent. That man's about to walk right back into that stadium, get his old job back at twice the pay.
Yeah, sure. I think another critical point too is last year, whenever Akers was potentially in a trade block, all the teams thought he was going to get cut. So they weren't giving us any offers that were, I think it was rumored some teams were offering 7th rounders and the Rams wanted a 6th and teams just weren't biting, which I thought at the time it was nuts. No one bit on Cam Akers on a 2-year contract or a 1.5-year contract. For a 6, that to me is a little nuts. But like you said, he should maybe a 4th, or a decent edge rusher equal to a 4th would be.
We're gonna get a 7th because that's what kind of compensation we get for our players. We're gonna get a 7th.
Yeah. But McVay said he won't. McVay said he won't get cut. They're not going to cut him.
Well, I hope not, because then we really look foolish. Then we absolutely look foolish. It's a long season. It's a long season. And regardless of how anybody feels, right, football is a business. And the business is winning. So God forbid anything happens to Kyren, right? Like everybody is aware that Cam Akers is still the most talented back on this roster. Regardless of what Kyren's doing well or doing better than Cam, like actual pound for pound skill set as a runner, Cam Akers is the most talented back that we have on our roster. So I don't want him to go down. I'm not wishing injuries on anybody. I had enough of that last season. But yeah, if you can't trade him, at least hold him until the rest of the season.
Yeah. So one thing that I want to talk about the offense is kind of go back to Kyren Williams. He played 95% of the snaps. That's unrealistic for him to keep that momentum up and keep him at, they're going to have to figure something out. And they didn't. 5% were the other mix of the running backs. Like, they need to figure something out, and they need to figure out fast because, it's been great that he's had 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games, and that's fantastic. And I want him to continue to be that rushing touchdown leader, but they need to give him more help. He's been really good at the pass protection. He's been really good at catching the ball. I mean, he had 48 yards, and probably one of the reasons why he got that interception is he's just tired. If you're playing 95% of the snaps, the only other person other than the offensive line playing that many is the quarterback. The
Mm-hmm.
receivers aren't even playing 95% of the
Yep.
snaps. So get that guy a break.
Yeah, we need a solid 2.
I think this team is going to have to move to get a 2. And Akers is going to be a part of that, most likely.
We'll see what happens, man. Like I said, I like Kyron. I audibly groaned / started cussing out my television when the ball came off of his hands, because you felt it. Like you just felt like that right there. That's the tipping point. Like,
and it just so happens to go straight to 49ers.
Oh, every time we play these guys, every time we play these guys, they can't. A one-handed behind him interception. They fumble the ball. It bounces right back to their own guy. Like, we get nothing every time.
They had 3 turnovers that all went back to 49ers.
Bro, we are cursed against that franchise. I don't know what it is. We can't catch a break. Every other team in the league, they're getting that fumble or he's not getting that interception. Us, nah, everything bouncing the 49ers way. Like I've never seen anything like it. It boggles the mind.
And they even if you go back and look at the stats afterwards, they gave that as a Debo fumble. Now, whether it hit the line, that's probably the questionable spot if it actually hit the line. But
let's kind of go back to the fact that yes, we lost this game because our team failed to execute in critical situations, especially in the fourth quarter, right? We lost the game. Now, I think the situations they were in were bad situations, not of their fault. Now, typically, you guys know we don't like to complain about the refs on this podcast. I think most of the time, if it comes down to one situation, your team put yourself in that situation to make it pivotal. Yep. And the refs most time can only mess up a few situations a game. This was atrocious, one-sided reffing by this officiating crew. Just atrocious.
I'm with you guys.
I mean, it was even. I mean, if you go back and look, it was both 6 penalties, about 55 yards each.
I mean, it shakes out that way. It definitely didn't feel that way on Sunday, but I'm like you. I don't want to put this on the refs because we had this with or without the refs. We had this. We got in our own way. The officiating, forget this game. The officiating through the first 2 weeks of football has been god awful. I watched Kansas City's right tackle line up on the hip of Patrick Mahomes for four quarters and get called for a false start once. I saw him doing the freaking stanky leg pre-snap for the entire game and not a single whistle. And I used to play on the offensive line. Like, bro, you couldn't have an aggressive fart on the offensive line without getting a whistle.
Well, it's really bad when you're listening to the commentators and they're also calling it out. And you're like, I thought there was a head ref in the like why is no one talking to the lead ref saying, hey?
The big thing was apparently some of the line staff noticed tendencies with that tackle, whether it was a run or a pass, and that's why they never said anything.
Okay, it doesn't matter. They should be moving 5 yards every single play. They should be moving 5 yards. Patrick Mahomes should be living against his own end zone without how much false starts. I'm telling you, the guy was so deep. I thought they were running split backs.
So going back to the ref argument, my big thing is just like I just want a game called the same for both teams.
Will never happen.
If you're going to call a touchy pass interference in the second quarter, then do that in the fourth quarter when there's the same, if not worse, contact. Like, I just want consistency. If you're not going to call anything, then don't.
I mean, there was the one play that was definitely egregious where Bosa and Higbee got it. Like, Bosa was actually the one who should have got the penalty and not Higbee. And that would have... I can't remember if that was the one where we
killed off drive. We didn't even get a field goal because of that.
Yeah.
And that was on them. Again, we lost because we didn't execute in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Those situations weren't always because of us, but you still had to overcome that. Every team gets stupid calls against them
It
in
just,
bad situations.
Ashton, to your point, man, it just hurts because we are a young team. This is I think it's the second or third youngest roster in the league right now. And like I said, when you're playing an opponent of that caliber, right? As much as I hate the
Yeah,
49ers, respect to what they have, right?
great team.
They have Hall of Famers everywhere on that roster, potential Hall of Famers everywhere on that roster, like all pros at every level. Like, this was a very good test. This is a very good test for our young team. When you're playing that kind of a team, you have to play pretty much perfect football. And we did that for we did that for 2.5 quarters. We did that for I would say two and a third quarter, like two and two, yeah, 2 3/4 of a quarter. Because it was like what, the last 4 minutes or whatever, so 2 2/3. And that's when that interception came in for Kyrie. Like, but we played it as perfectly as you could, and even like I said, even after that, we still had a chance. We still had a chance because of some miscommunications on where the route's supposed to go, or just a bad decision because you're not an aggressive receiver and you're not coming up to help your quarterback. Like, that was the nail in the
So,
coffin. But we were still in it. And you could not convince me that we were not going to drive the ball because we were moving the ball on this 49ers team. By the way, a team that showed up to Pittsburgh, who everybody's been talking about Pittsburgh in the offseason about what Kenny Pickett was supposed to be looking like. They've got good running backs, right? They've got good running backs. They got some weapons at receiver. The defense is dominant. And
mauled them.
guys, we did as well as a Pittsburgh Steelers defense with a bunch of nobodies in Aaron Donald and a young offense who nobody really knows any names outside of Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. They know Puka Nakua now, but nobody was expecting us to put up this fight and to, punch back.
I mean, if you go back and look at these stats, it almost seems like we should have won.
100% we should have.
We had 28 first downs compared to their 21 first downs. Mm-hmm. We had their third down efficiency was 2 of 9. Ours was 7 and 14. Total plays, we had 78 total plays to their 54. We had 386 yards to their 356. Like, you look at half of these things, other than rushing, we were pretty much on top.
Turnovers is the only thing that wasn't in our favor, man.
And so I think that caused us all the points.
Let's talk about that second interception. And Soup, you said you think it was because of Van Jefferson's approach to his route. At least when I was watching it, I kind of took it away as Stafford wanted to kind of dip it in. And I believe it was the safety was able to jump high enough and he didn't get enough air in because there was space in the center of the field that the safety kind of pushed back. I don't know if Stafford didn't see him or not, or if it was because of Van Jefferson.
That was the interception by Demidor Lenore, right?
Yeah, Lenore.
That's who got. Yeah, so Lenore, if you go back and watch it, I just right before we started recording, I was watching the highlights again just because I wanted to refresh my memory, make sure I'm not talking out all the way out my behind here. But he actually breaks on that route because you can actually see there. God, I wish we could put the video up here, but I saw a great breakdown of why that failed, and they talk about the 3 levels. Mark Sanchez actually on the herd today, and I don't want to give them extra props, but he was actually doing a great breakdown of it. He says when you run this route tree, you have the angle that the play is actually drawn up as, right? And that's in the center. You hardly ever get to run that. But then you have an angle that's more aggressive that bent back towards your quarterback, and then you have the angle that's kind of turned up. He said the problem when you turn that stuff up, if you have a smart corner that is playing as in your hip, like Lenore was playing on him, when you vacate that space and you go up, you give him space to come down. And if you watch it, as soon as that ball releases and Van comes up, Demidor comes right inside of him and goes where Van should have been. And so I don't think it was a miscommunication, man. I think it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what needs to happen in these situations from Van. And like I said, I don't want to slander Van. It's just, buddy, this is your 4th year in the league. Your dad is a receivers coach in the NFL. I know you're smart enough to know this. I can't run routes like Van Jefferson. I know you're smart enough to know this. Like he knows all the stuff that's being broken down and this stuff. Like he knows this stuff, and it's got to be killing him because when he goes back and watches the film, I promise you, he looks at that film and he's like, I should have came back. I should have came back and I should have helped out my quarterback.
I mean, you can see it on the bench on his face.
Mhm.
He looks like it's not exactly coming together like he wants it to for this contract year,
Mhm.
and
Van,
it's
I mean,
one of the things. Uh,
he had a
what
lot
was
of
that?
rest days during the OTAs and stuff too. Like he wasn't playing in the training camp as much as everybody else was.
I don't think he's healthy, and
Something's wrong.
I don't think he's been healthy since the Super Bowl run. And I get he had to rehab and he came back, but something is wrong with him. And Van has even go back and watch his Florida tape, man. Like you want to talk about a smart guy above the neck, like that understands the game. Like Van, he knows how to run these routes. He knows exactly what to do, and it's even simple mistakes. And I hate to revisit last week, but for like half a second, just go back the wide open catch that should have been a damn touchdown. The
Uh,
fundamental mistake with that, the dude is trying to catch it like it's coming over his shoulder instead of in front of him. Like it's the difference between your hands being in a basket versus being in the diamond. Like receiver 101. And for some reason, I don't know what is happening. You watch him play and you can see him processing the routes on the field. Like in real time, you can see him thinking through, okay, I'm gonna 10, break to the left, come here, come down, hands up. Like you can see it. It's all over his face. And for some reason, I don't know what it is. He's not playing free. He's really thinking, and I think I'm not. I think you can see it. You can see the results on the field. It's resulting in a lot of bad football, which is unfortunate for us as a franchise. It's unfortunate for him in a contract year.
But it's giving players like Tutu Atwell and Puka Nakua their biggest spotlights ever. And kind of as we talked about, Tutu Atwell, that man he's endured a
bulked
lot
up.
from Rams fans.
Mm-hmm.
He's endured a lot. I mean, we all were kind of crushing on him. We have to remember
We
though,
did
like
say on our podcast, we were one of the only podcasts that said even if he ends up being the best wide receiver or the worst wide receiver, that doesn't mean people should attack him for his draft position. He it's not like he can say no. And you said
Mm-hmm.
this, like he's gonna take phone call and be like, "Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm gonna try to prove you right." And move on with everyone's life, and hopefully it turns out for the right. And he was a future pick, and I think that was the issue that me and Zach had at that point in time. We thought a different position at that high of a pick for the current
Mm-hmm.
at that time was a better choice. And Tutu has proven people wrong that just thought he was a bust completely.
Guys, I know you guys we got the whole agenda, and we got to look forward to like the Bengals. But I just thought about this. We were giving everybody their flowers, and the only person that we did not give flowers that absolutely deserves a lot of praise, Steve Avila.
Oh yeah.
What a specimen! The dude is a monster. I mean,
Mm.
just moving people out of the way violently. Like none of this stuff that we're talking about. Stafford playing as well as he's playing, Tutu getting the opportunities, Puka going like that doesn't happen without this offensive line as a whole. But like, what a it's 2 games
Looking
in, but
up,
what an upgrade Steve Avila is. I'm watching him get the stunts passed off to him with going against Nick Bosa, right? And I don't like Nick Bosa. I mean, I'd like to see him in some horns, but like that is not an easy dude to block. And the way that he is just sticking his face in everything, and he's not afraid. He's a dog, and I love the way that he gets up for his teammates and the way that you see him jumping around, getting excited for Kyron running it in, getting excited when, Puka and Tutu are catching and stuff. Like the dude is an absolute gift. And I pray that he stays healthy for the entirety of his career. I hope we get 10 to 12 years out of him in the horns.
yeah,
dude,
passing
he
off people and able to go off of a double block, double team, and actually pick up a free rusher. Like what? if everyone hasn't seen it, Baldy's breakdown of Avila,
Exactly.
fantastic, fantastic, and it shows the quality of player we got in him.
I mean, he just has that "we not me" mentality that Sean McVay has been beating into everybody, and it's just so fun to see it on the field and get to see the, like you were talking about his reaction to Kyron Williams. Like even the Rams media people saw it and got his like reactions, like a timestamp of each of the reaction points, and he's so much fun to watch, and I'm so glad that we picked him up. This is like, again, less seen as its finest as finding the diamonds in the rough. And
Mm-hmm.
not he was our first pick this year, and he's phenomenal, and I'm so excited to
I'm
looking
having
forward to being selected for the Pro Bowl this year.
Oh, he definitely needs to. And I have an open competition here with me personally. I'm trying to see what rookie is going to force me to buy their jersey first. And obviously, like I said, the popular pick right now is Puka, but I'm telling you, I might have to go get me a number 73. I might have to go grab me a Steve Avila before I grab anybody else, any skill position players. I might need about 2 or 3 of them things.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
the
gonna be
Rams
fun.
went through a rough patch of drafts that I think everyone thought like there was some potential, but didn't really make a lot of sense position wise, didn't make a lot of sense personnel selection wise. And yeah, they have changed their methodology, changed the way they're doing their run game. Stuff has changed. But this draft, from top to bottom, I mean, it looks like there's going to be more diamonds than even just cuts, and that's rare.
It's
Normally, from a draft, you just want one or two.
mhm.
Two is a good draft.
But I think, Ashton, to that fact, I think the difference between this draft year and in previous years is the fact that these guys are getting opportunities because we have no one else. There is no veteran. There's not a Jalen. There's not a Leonard Floyd. There's not a Bobby. Like, you're it for us, guys. We're picking you not only because of your talent. We're picking you like, bro, there is a gap on the roster where it's you and somebody else in this draft class fighting it out for this, and somebody from last year's draft class. So I think the fact that these guys are getting playing time, real NFL snaps, real early, and they're going to build together. We're going to see a significant number of this class catch on and become, every household names and starters for this franchise, just for the sheer, just out of necessity at this point, right? Like that's what's going to happen. I think that's the biggest difference. I do like the fact that it does seem that McVay and Snead have kind of re-envisioned what this Rams team is and what this build is going to look like. And after so many years of being touted as a finesse team, that we are the pretty boys, right? With like LA, the Rams, they're very Hollywood, right? They don't want to get dirty. This looks like a team. It's early, and this is the first iteration. It's not as physical as I would like, but these guys look like they want to tussle a little bit, and they're not afraid to roll up the sleeves. And I like that because we haven't seen that in a long time.
Yep, and just going off that, their next competition. Let's talk about Week 3. Big Monday Night Football game coming against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of if you want to call it a rematch of Super Bowl just a couple years ago. I got my
Yes,
hat.
sir.
Small game, small game.
Uh, just a simple, fun ball game that
Mm-hmm.
the Rams just had to win. But no, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be. I'm looking so forward to this game. I will be there in person.
Going.
I'll be repping.
Yes.
I'll be in enemy territory. My dad's a season ticket holder for the Bengals, and so I'm taking one of his seats. So it'll be me and him. So I'm super excited to be able to go to this game. So what do you guys think? I mean, right now Joe Burrow doesn't seem like he may not play.
He's gonna
Which
play.
is
He's gonna play.
I don't know. You see all these quarterbacks coming out. You see RG3 coming out saying like they better not play. I'm like, calf
He's
injury is not something you're going to want to mess with. And are you going to ruin that $275 million purchase you just made for a short-term win against the Rams, or do you want to save it for a better competition when you have to go again compete in your division and in your conference?
I think smart money says that you want to hold on to that franchise quarterback, the guy that you just paid all that money to, right? Because he's the future now. You've committed dollars to him. significant dollars to him. And he's a hell of a player. Like, I know everybody wants to argue Josh Allen as the number 2 quarterback in the league. For me, it's Joe Burrow. I don't think it's going to be very hard to convince him to sit. One, because I don't think he wants to sit. I think Burrow's got a lot of fight in him, and I think with Zach Taylor's familiarity with our team and our philosophy, and a lot of unknowns, right? And let's just call a spade, right? Like they have easily one of the best wide receiver corps in the league, right? That combination of Jamar Chase and T Higgins and I'm missing somebody. That's is not Tyler Boyd. Boyd, yeah, it's Tyler Boyd, yeah, right. Like, I mean, especially against a young secondary who's undisciplined, giving up plays and stuff over the middle, and and Higgins and Chase, just their builds, they're tall and physical against our shorter DBs. Like, this is a Cincinnati, regardless of what anybody tell you, internally Cincinnati views this as a get right game for them. This is an opportunity to capitalize on a young, inexperienced team and kind of right the ship. And they think they can do that with a relatively low lift and keeping Burrow clean. And I think Burrow is spending all week doing everything that he can right to rehab, to show him out on the practice field that he's good enough to go. He's talking to his offensive linemen, and he's like, hey, all you guys got to do is block Aaron Donald. That's it. They don't have anybody else. And don't get me wrong, blocking Aaron Donald is a tall task. Joe Burrow knows that firsthand. However, if you go back and you look at the 49ers game that we just played, Aaron Donald is having not 3 people, 4 people sliding to him, and nobody else is winning their one-on-one matchups. And if that's going to be the case this Sunday, absolutely expect to see Joe Burrow take the field. Absolutely expect him to let it rip, because these receivers don't need a lot of room, and they get down the field quickly, and they're physical and hard to tackle. So even if they catch the ball, now we have to tackle them. We've demonstrated 2 weeks in a row that we are not great at tackling. Yes, we're getting better, but we're not great. Joe Burrow plays. Barring something crazy happening at practice, he plays.
It's gonna be interesting. I mean, the Bengals fans are not forgiving. They're not forgiving at all. They were booing the offense this past week at home. They're already tired of Zach Taylor. They're already ready for his head. They're ready. This fan base is just it's gonna be weird to be in this environment and see. But I don't disagree with you. I think they do have a great duo, but they haven't done anything. And they're going to have to prove that they can do something with a injured Burrow. And I don't know if an injured Burrow is a good
Is his arm busted, though? Is his arm busted?
I mean, he hasn't done any long passes. I mean, they haven't done
that O-line is not good.
I mean, they're not great. That's for dang sure. They're not.
They've
great.
scored 27 points in the last 2 weeks.
Who were their 2 opponents that they played?
The Browns and the Ravens.
The Browns.
Okay, so that's my point. That's my point.
They got blown out by the Browns.
And forget the offense for both of those teams, right? Let's just focus strictly on the defense on those teams. What do those 2 defenses have that we don't have? Significant presence off the edge. Significant presence off the edge. We don't have that. Yes, we have Aaron Donald, but we don't have significant presence off the edge. Now, Baltimore doesn't have the same secondary that Cleveland does. Cleveland might have the best defense in the AFC. They might, like, top to bottom, they might have the best defense in the AFC. We are not that defense. I have no illusions that we're either of those defenses. And I'm not saying that we're a terrible defense. The past 2 weeks have shown you we're not a terrible defense. But we lack discipline and we lack experience at every single level outside of Aaron Donald and really Ernest Jones. It's a dangerous combination that they can exploit that they couldn't exploit on these other 2 teams that they've placed.
But what I would say is that our defense isn't.
It will definitely be a shootout, Soup. But you have to remember, this is by far the best offense they've faced yet. Like, we're leaps and bounds better than the Browns offense. And I honestly think we're better than the Ravens offense. Lamar has kind of looked sluggish. The play calling hasn't been very well done, in my opinion, for the Ravens. And, I think you have to look at the offense and defense as complementary, and that's why we have issues coming back in games because this defense is not built for comebacks. It's just not,
So here's the
and we
thing.
need the offense to score.
So here's the thing. The whole time we're talking about it, right? We're talking, is Burrow going to play? I say for those reasons Burrow plays, I don't think we lose. I make no mistake. I don't want anybody listening to this thing. I'm not, for all the praise that I've given them and all the reasons that Burrow is going to play and the things that they can do to exploit our defense. I 100% expect us to win this game. This is a very winnable game for us, Asha, for the reason that you said, because ultimately neither one of these defenses are prolific right now. They're shells of their former selves, right? It's going to come down to one or two plays, but we do have the best offense that they faced so far this season. And I think this is a game that we really could see Tutu get loose. And I'm talking about if we can hold up that line and give Matt time, I think Tutu is going deep a couple of times. I think we're going to get some of those deep shots that he wanted to try in Seattle that he just couldn't quite connect. And I think even Puka's going to start running a little bit deeper this week as well. He's still going to do all his Cooper Cup stuff and, over the middle of the field, 10 to 20 yards, right? But I think we're going to start seeing some 30 plus yards in the air. I think it's a real chance.
We're going to get touchdowns in the air.
I'm calling it now. Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua, both of them get their first receiving touchdowns of the season.
I already have Puka down as getting his first TD of the season. I hope Tutu does as well. But I'm all for it. I put it down on Twitter like 9 hours ago. Like I'm all for it. He is going to get his touchdown this week, and it's just going to elevate his rookie career even better. So
Zach, you want to do your favorite thing in the world? A prediction?
Oh, I hate predictions. I will say I don't know. I hate it. I can't do scores. I'm gonna say the Rams win. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be cheering as loud as I can, annoying the hell out of my dad next to me. But I think this is gonna be a winnable game. I think it's gonna be a fun game. I do hope Joe Burrow is out there because I
don't want the
playing
excuses.
a team when they're I don't want excuses. I want them playing at their best when we play at our best. I think our defense can hold. Again, our defense over the last several years has been the bend don't break mentality. And as long as they don't do the explosive plays, as long as we can contain them to field goals, the Rams should have no problem winning this game.
I think this is a game that our young defensive line and edge rushers can get a lot of confidence, because if Burrow does play, he is limited in his mobility. He's not going to be able to climb that pocket or, do those rollouts that he's accustomed to doing. He's not an overly mobile quarterback, but he has kept drives alive. Yeah, he moves around in the pocket a lot, right? And I think if you limit that and you do have an Aaron Donald, that offensive line is going to have a hard time containing. And I expect AD to get 1 or 2 sacks this week. And if he doesn't, Kobe Turner absolutely needs to get a sack. Byron Young absolutely needs to get some sacks this week. We should not come out of this game if Burrow starts for them. If Burrow starts and he finishes this game, we should not come out of this game with less than 3 sacks. And I'm not afraid to go ahead and give a prediction. I'll give a prediction. I say that we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game 33-27.
That close.
Yeah.
It's going to be a shootout, but I just think ultimately, what are we, first or second in red zone efficiency? Yeah, I think it's going to be the touchdown we get versus the touchdown they didn't. Brett Maher, this is not the time for you to revert back to your old days. I need you to be solid, son.
Ashley, what about you?
I will say 37-27.
Oh,
I think the Rams offense, I think it explodes. I think this offense is gonna have a lot of touchdowns. It's gonna surprise a lot of people. I think it will be a close game for the first 2 quarters. And like most years with McVay, for some reason, we're a second half team, and it is terrible for my blood pressure, Soup. But as long as we get that dub at the end, I think it's going to be a fun third and fourth quarter.
Man, it's football season, and anytime I'm watching Rams football before the season starts, I got to call my life insurance guy. I got to make sure that the policy's good, make sure stuff is enforced. Don't want to leave the wife and kids with nothing, because I know any given Sunday I could be up out of here. These Rams could be the death of me. it's gonna happen one of these days, sooner or later. So the only thing I told my wife, I was like, I know you hate football season, but one day you're gonna be, you and the kids gonna be millionaires because of football season. Because the Rams are gonna end me.
That's funny. That's funny. But yeah, if anybody's going to is traveling to Cincinnati, please hit me up. You can find me at my Twitter handle there. Yeah, it'd be really great to do a meetup while we're there. I'll be there probably a couple hours early. I'm gonna try to get in some Bengals tailgating and kind of rub this right here.
Let's go.
Can't see it.
That's our boy Vince right there with the pen game strong too, boy.
And my other side, I will have the Cooper Cup Apple pin on there as well.
100%.
So those are going to be both on this hat. I can't decide if I'm going to wear this one because it does have a Bengals logo on it. But
he's going to have to make a Puka-tron one soon. Going to have the Puka-tron.
When you saw he dropped the Puka pen, like, I mean, shout out our guy Vince, man, and his team over at Amaze Them Pens. I'm doing him a disservice right now because this hat doesn't have any of the pins on it. But the Super Bowl hat that I have, it's got him. It's got our boy Jay over at Prominent Kings Pens. It's got his AD with the two helmets ripping off. It's got I got the Ring Me AD on it. I got Cooper Cup and the Eli Apple on the back. I got the Triple Crown and I got the championship ring on the side. So yeah, and shout out to them boys. Them boys is doing it.
Oh, everybody. And I've been putting out on Twitter that we're going to be doing content creator posts for them here on the video podcast for everybody. So if anybody is an entrepreneur like Vince and like all these other guys, please feel free to let us know and we'll promote you guys here on the podcast because everyone's doing awesome work with their own creativeness. The Rams, officially, I think it's mostly the NFL creative team behind them. It's just not working for me.
Look here, we got some of the best fans in the world. I don't care what them loonies up in San Francisco that don't even live in the Bay say, right? Like the LA loonies say, we got the best fans in the world. I'm having an absolute time of my life being a Rams fan, and I've been a Rams fan for over 20 years. The stuff that I see people putting together for our team, I'm like, I'm gonna go broke, dog. Like, I'm gonna go broke. They're gonna have to foreclose on my house that I just bought because I need all of this stuff. I'm buying pins. I got so many pins, bro. I got a box of them. I haven't even had a chance to put them on all my hats yet. I don't need them, but I'm gonna buy them.
It's fine. It's only gonna be cheap when you buy that miniature SoFi to live in when you leave your house.
You're right. I'm stacking it up. We still. I think it's nothing crazy. I think I dropped about like $7,000 in Super Bowl merchandise. It's one of those things. I've only seen, this is the only, Super Bowl that I've seen as an adult. So I don't know if I'll ever see it as a lifetime. Zach, like you, I didn't grow up in a Rams household. I chose the Rams. My dad is a lifetime Vikings fan. So he's never seen one. He doesn't know what that feels like.
He's seen pain. He's seen pain his entire life.
The Bengals have seen 3 and lost 3. So
that's what
I think that might be worse than not even going.
Have the Vikings been? I feel like the Vikings have been.
Oh, they might have been. Yeah, I think
they've been twice.
It doesn't matter. He don't have what we have. Yeah. So hey, sorry for that, man.
Yeah, and
we will also be going to the Colts game. Talking about joining the game. Me and Zach meeting up. We'll probably do some stuff and probably try to get in tailgating action, and that should be fun.
I'm trying to do a meetup for us the Saturday before the game too. So hopefully try to get a good crowd to come chat and hang out and talk Rams and invade Indianapolis. So
heck yeah, man.
All right. Well, I think we're going over an hour on this podcast. We could keep talking all day about all of our Rams picks and things like that. But I think we're going to call it a day. Soup, thanks so much for joining on. We really appreciate you coming on and, unloading your knowledge on us. It's been really fun.
Man, thank you guys for having me. I had an absolute blast. I think it's more fun being on this side of the show.
Yeah, it is definitely it's good for the soul and good for my wife that we do this show. You probably know the same feeling. Wife's like, I don't want to talk about football after Yeah.
I think I don't know how you guys are in your house, but my wife is good. Don't get me wrong. I've been with my wife for 17 years. Love her to death. Wouldn't know how to function without her. She is not a lover of football. She has zero interest in football. She doesn't understand why grown men spend their Sundays hitting each other and then yelling at the people that are hitting or not hitting each other. So I don't have one of them cool wives that's like, oh, let's go watch the Rams game, baby. So I need like this stuff, like you said, it's cathartic for me. I need to talk to other grown adults, specifically Rams fans, about Rams football.
Well, for sure, we're definitely gonna have to have you on again. Is there anything you want to promote while you're on?
Man, look, if you guys want to interact with me, my Twitter handle at ACDAGDB. It's AC to GDB. That's Adrian Campbell, the goddamn Batman, on Twitter. You guys can catch me on our other podcast with my family, The Touchdown with Doug Smith. We cover all 32 teams. It's not just strictly a Rams fan cast. So if you got friends and families that are fans of everybody else, we got a Dolphins fan on there that's a host. We got a Broncos fan on there as a host, a Commanders fan that's on there that's a host, and we just get on there and talk the whole league and do a lot of nonsense. So if you guys want to tune in and check that out, we'd appreciate it.
Sweet. Definitely check that out. Thank you to everybody who has listened to the podcast. Last week was our biggest podcast ever. We almost hit 1,000 views, which is just crazy. I don't even know if all of our other podcasts combined hit that number, but we're just super awesome that you guys are taking the time to interact with us, listen to us, give us great feedback. We even had 49ers fans watch our video. Again, I don't know why they need to leave comments when they're listening
because they want to be Rams fans. They know in their soul that it's wrong for them to be 49ers fans.
Apparently they just love talking to Rams content creators because that's all they seem to do during their free time.
30 years of misery will do it to you.
You can follow all of our X or Twitter, whatever you want to call them, tags down below. Obviously, our East Coast Rams one is at East Coast Rams. You can find us on YouTube if you're not watching us already. YouTube.com/at East Coast Rams. Please subscribe to the podcast. It's a free thing that you can do to help support our channel. And then we're available on any audio podcast of your choice: Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pocket Cast, you name it, we're there. So yeah, keep on subscribing, keep on listening. We got a Monday Night Football game. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we don't have any injuries like the last two Monday night games, but really just hoping for a good, solid, clean game. Hoping for a Rams victory. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Whose house?
Rams house.